Hello, so you might notice that this video is not called a youth devotional. It came to our attention that these videos aren't so much devotionals as they are some hybrid of zero punctuation, 10-minute Bible hour with a little bit of Plamela thrown in, or Jenny Nicholson in the case of the first two. And so we're rebranding these videos under the name Sundays with Chris, because they go up on Sunday, and they have me in them. And Thursdays with David just sounded a bit misleading. Matthew chapter 5 has a list of things called the Beatitudes. They all go, "Blessed are the blank, for they will blank." It's not a Cards Against Humanity round. There are just so many that it's not worth me listing each one individually. We covered the one about mercy in person before this whole corona thing started. And this time, we're going to be looking at "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be satisfied." Now, the word satisfied here is translated to filled in some Bible translations, and that matches the Greek word. The Greek word is kotasthesonte, which I managed to say on the first take there, still not perfectly, but I'm going to keep that in. But this word is used to describe how people feel after the feeding of the 5,000. Also, in the feeding of the 4,000, if you didn't realize that Jesus fed two big groups of people. You get a lot of food analogies when it comes to spirituality within the Bible, especially in the Lord's Prayer, where we see, "Give us today our daily bread." I should clarify that it's not because Baker's Delight are sponsoring the Lord's Prayer. Speaking of which, I do want to say this video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. It is a mobile. The reason that food analogies are helpful when it comes to thinking about these kinds of things is because, I don't know if you've noticed, but it's very hard to not eat anything for a prolonged period of time. The notion of hungering for something or thirsting for something is something I'm sure you can relate to, especially if you've been hanging out after church and your parents aren't leaving yet, so you've got to wait until like 2 p.m. to be able to eat lunch. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Others are probably like, "Oh, it's lucky that I get to just duck out at 11 a.m. But to have that craving for something suggests that you can't produce it yourself. If we could just make food magically appear and eat it, we wouldn't be craving food in that same way. To satisfy your craving, you've got to go and eat something. If I really want chocolate, I can't make chocolate appear. I have to go to the store to buy chocolate and eat chocolate. If I really want to play Halo, I have to go find an original Xbox, find my original copy of Halo, put the two together, and then start playing them. Or I could just buy the Master Chief Collection on Steam. So if righteousness is something we have to be given, where do we get it from? Do we go and buy it from the store like we would chocolate? Do we get it from the Steam store? Maybe we need a cheat code to get into it, or perhaps it's a secret area that you get to by going to like 7 different islands in a specific order to make a giant bunny come out of the water. The word righteousness translates to being right with God, and that gives us two implications. First is that we are not right with God by default, because then we wouldn't need to hunger or thirst to be right with God, because if we were right with God, that wouldn't need to be a thing that would happen. The second thing that we can infer is that we don't have to make ourselves righteous. In fact, we can't make ourselves righteous. We can't do enough ourselves to be right with God. That's why all we can do is hunger and thirst for it. Like we can't magically make chocolate appear. God's got to give us the righteousness because we can't make it ourselves. We can make ourselves pious, as piety is just actions made out of devotion, but piety is not righteousness. Being right with God only comes from God. Anyone who studied psychology or acting, or if you watched the last video I did on faith, they'll tell you that your heart dictates your actions. Your heart is what God looks at when he's like, "Yeah, you're right with me." The actions just are a flow-on effect from that. In 2 Corinthians chapter 5, we see that we don't beat sin on our own. We're not strong enough to beat sin on our own. You've been made righteous before you do anything. It's a gift given to you when you genuinely hunger and thirst for it. All you need to be made righteous is to genuinely want to be reconciled with God. I should clarify that we're not actually sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. I just thought I should actually put that in.